I'm Dom,
And I'm Al.
and you're watching the Resilient Shift podcast. This is episode 2. We are super excited to be back for another episode. If you are watching for the first time because you heard about us, awesome, happy you're here. If you watched the first episode and you're back for more, we appreciate it, and thank you. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, like Dom said, welcome back to all of our first listeners and to all our new listeners. We're so happy to have you. So Dom, I know we talked about in the first episode the fear of taking that first step, starting our first podcast. So now that the first episode's back, how are you feeling? How is it to get some feedback from some people? And then for you to watch yourself back and listen to your own words and see it out there. How was that?
It's definitely interesting watching myself back. I don't like to hear myself talk.
No one does.
But I was actually like pleasantly surprised with how I spoke. The overwhelming positivity from the first episode has just been awesome, and it gets me fired up to do another one.
Yeah. Do you think getting that positive feedback now makes it easier, or do you still have a little bit of that fear?
Definitely still like working through fear, but it definitely, like I said, it fires me up. It gets me more excited, definitely, and that helps.
Yeah, of course. And we definitely have some new listeners, I'm sure. So I want you to just give them a quick little rundown of Resilient Shift. Where did that come from? And what that means to you.
Yeah. So the Resilient Shift podcast, right? You hear the term Resilient Shift. Um, if you know me, I love roller hockey. And in hockey, you have shifts, right? Usually 30 seconds to a minute at a clip. You get off and then you're right back out there a minute later. So that's where the shift comes from. And the resilient, it's kind of a play on hockey, but also life, right? There's plenty of times where you don't have good shifts during a game, right? You make a mistake, you give a puck up, you should have made a better play. And I think that goes for life too. Sometimes I think you wish you made different decisions. You wish you weren't in your current situation, unfortunate circumstances. And that's what the resilient shift is about, right? It's about the ability to be resilient. We talk about, a lot of like mental, I guess, strategies, tools, and like just our experiences, with, fighting through adversity and bouncing back and, kind of maintaining a positive mindset while you do it.
Of course. And you bring up that word adversity, right? Adversity. And you went through some stuff, right? I want to talk a little bit about chemo and your journey with chemo.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed, if you're watching for the first time, with a brain cancer called LCH, Langerhans cell histiocytosis. I've gone through, I think, in total, like close to 5 years of chemotherapy throughout, kind of my adolescent to like young adult life. A lot of IV chemo. I recently just did this kind of new experimental chemo in 2023 that worked wonders for me, which is great. I've done oral chemo as well. So most of my life has just been in and out of chemotherapy, really.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was hard to not only go in and out of it, right? But you finished one round and then living life, but then also having to go back to chemo. So
Yeah, that was the worst.
what was it like for you? What was the hardest part of chemo? I'm sure there was many, but if you could hone down to one thing, was there a particular challenge or was it all just hard?
I definitely struggled the most with the fatigue and the way your body changes. And especially going into the second time, right? I kind of knew what I was expecting. And, you go down the first, year cycle and you kind of just go with the motions. You're like, all right, I just got to take what's thrown at me. And then you finish and it feels like you got to the end of this tunnel. And then they're like, oh, nope, sorry, turn around and walk back the other way. And that's definitely a challenge because now and you kind of like, for lack of better words, you just have to embrace the suck at that point, right? Because it's horrible. And that was definitely a challenge for sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. And when you say you just got to get to that finish, right? Whatever that finish is for you might be different for someone else. Was it easier than the second time to know I've already done this once? I know I can do it again. Or was it harder having to live through it again?
Oh, definitely harder to live through it again because after I finished the first time, I started to understand like the psychological effects of chemo. And just knowing that I was going to have to do it again. And like, I had like just finished, I think I was good for like 11 months, before, I had a scan and they were like, listen, we have to start treatment again. And I honestly had the mentality of like, whoa, can I do this again? Is kind of how I was thinking.
I'm sure, yeah, because you know what you're going to face, right? You know what each day is going to be like, where the first time it's kind of all unknown. You're embracing it, but you're
Yeah. I
learning.
don't know if embrace is the right word,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Well,
you're
you're
dealing with
embracing the
it.
suck, like you said.
That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
You're right.
And then talk to me about, you said the psychological part, right? What was harder for you? The physical side effects you had, the psychological, the emotional?
I think the psychological and emotional effects were because of the physical effects I was having. I think you learn when nothing else is going your way. Like you always kind of like have your person, right? Like, I got on my limbs. I feel good. I can get up and go get a Gatorade from the fridge if I want. And I think once that like almost like natural, like human, like not even just mobility, but like agency kind of
Mm,
starts to get taken away from you a little bit at a time, that's definitely scary,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah, of course. And besides scary, what else did you feel? What else did you experience?
A lot of anger.
Mhm,
I got really angry. Um, yeah,
mm,
yeah, a lot of anger, not so much a why me, but like up until that point, I felt I'd done everything right.
mhm,
I got through it. I did it. Um, I feel like I handled it pretty well.
mm,
And like, I'm like, why is that not paying dividends to me now?
mhm.
And that was hard I think my second round was, I want to say 10th grade of high school, 10th, 11th grade.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like now looking back at it, it seems like you have a little bit of a different tone towards it, unless I'm wrong. But is there still that anger inside of you when you look back?
Um, yeah, definitely. I think to a degree, I think now it's more of like a proud anger, if that makes sense. You
Yes,
ever
yeah.
like feel like you like have so many emotions, you don't know what to do. And you're just like you want to hit something, you kind of want to jump, you want to cry at the same
Mhm,
time. And like, almost feels like your adrenaline is like pumping.
mhm,
That's kind of how I feel when I look back on it now because it was horrible, and I don't wish it on anyone. Worst experience ever, quite frankly.
mhm,
Um, but I did it, and there's an element of pride in that. I think that like gets mixed in with all the anger
mhm.
at times.
Of course, and I think that speaks to resiliency, right? Sometimes we get through something that was so bad, but we're so stuck on that was terrible. We point out every bad in it, but I think if you can look back at something and say, "Well, it taught me this," or "It made me stronger," or even it's as simple, "I did it, I beat cancer," or a simple, "I made it through," right? I think that's the resilient shift in mindset that we all need to have, and we're trying to inspire others to have.
Yeah, I don't know if I look at it necessarily from the perspective of what it gave me and what it taught me.
Hmm.
Um, I definitely look at it more from the perspective of what I learned about
Hmm.
myself
Yeah,
through that kind of process, which I guess is kind of the same thing. But
yeah. What did you learn about yourself?
um, it's really all mental.
Mhm.
Everything is mental. You know, it's mental.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You got to get your mind right,
of
and
course.
you'd be amazed at the things you could do if you just tell yourself, I refuse to let this go any other way
Mhm.
than the way that I want it. And I think that rings true for obviously athletics, but
Mhm.
just life in general, right? Like
Yeah.
decide the outcome you want, dictate the outcome you want, and then do the right things to get there, which, if you want something bad enough, you're going to do that. It's
Mhm.
not even a question.
Yeah. Now when you were back in it, right? It sounds like you were younger at the time. Now you're telling me looking back at it, you knew it's all mental, right? What do you do with it? How do you respond to it? Do you think you had that mentality in the moment?
Like while I was going through it,
Hmm.
I think I did. I did because for me, you look at like the whole over like arcing like
Hmm.
story and like journey of going through chemo. But for me, what I learned was very situational. About how if I got my mind to a place where I refused to accept any other result than the one I wanted,
Yeah.
or the one I needed, quite frankly, that's just the way that it was going to be. So what I mean by like situational is I remember this one story where early on in my diagnosis, since I have ulcerative colitis as well, they wanted to make sure that LCH didn't present to my gut because that's common for LCH to go to your gut, and then you got bigger problems. So they send me for a stomach MRI. Um, and if you've never gone for like a full stomach MRI, they make you drink this like purple like sludge, and you got to drink like 48 ounces of it. It's like a tall boy. It's disgusting. Um, and you got to drink it before you can go in the machine. It makes your insides glow, and that whole thing. They can do what they got to do, but and like at this time, like I was a picky eater to begin with. If I didn't like the way it smelled, the way it looked, I wasn't eating it. Um, and this obviously didn't look or smell appetizing in the
Doesn't sound
slightest.
it.
But I had to do it, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I remember leading into it, and my parents telling me, and my mom was like, "Listen, like this is what you're going to have to do."
Mhm.
Like, and my parents were always very good at not sugarcoating things and being like, "This is going to be horrible,
Mhm.
but let's just get through it, and we'll figure out the rest later." Um, and I remember just being in the waiting room and not being like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Um, and my dad was like, dude, like, you gotta. And, if you listen to the first episode, my dad, he was good at getting me in that headspace to be able to just do whatever I needed to do. Um, he's like, dude, you gotta lock in. Like, we're gonna have to figure this out. Like, I'm either gonna like put it down your throat. I don't want to do that, but you know, or you can just, get it done. I'm like, like, I don't know what to do. And I had my Beats with me. His company for Christmas, actually, that year, I was going through chemo. They got me a set of Beats, which was really cool, that I could bring
Put
to
on
the
your pump
hospital,
song,
listen to my
drinking that.
music. Yeah. So I was like, my dad was like, put on your Beats, like, get in the zone, like, you know. And that was like, what we used to do before hockey
Yeah.
games too, coaching, drive to the game. We listen to like Rat. Um, I put my Beats on. He puts on Over the Mountain by Ozzy. And if
Good one.
you've never heard that song, the beginning of the song is like this crazy like drum intro. And I'm just sitting there like full volume in this like quiet waiting room, like with my Beats on, like full of these people. And I'm ready to run through a wall at this point.
I'm
Like
sure.
he's like hitting me in my chest. Let's go, let's go. And I did it. And that was, one shot, just closed my eyes, took it down, and I was fired up. Right. Which is crazy. But I mean, you gotta find
Mhm.
excitement in the bad times, I
Mhm.
think. But that was the first time that I really understood, like, hey, I can do
Mhm.
this as long as you could do anything you want under the right circumstance. And for me, I needed to find that zone and that circumstance where everything just clicked for me.
Yeah, and I think that you learned it unfortunately from a really unfortunate circumstance, right? Having to go through chemo, having to go through that test. But I think every day people face that of either self-doubt, imposter syndrome, so many different things, even us, like the fear of starting our first podcast. And it's just you just have to do what you have to do. And whatever works for you, I think works for you, right? And for you it was putting those beats on and playing that song. Was there anything else that worked for you and was like a quick fix to help you through that tough time?
When I used to go to chemo, they used to have to flush my IV every day,
Mhm.
make sure it worked. And I would get this horrible taste in my mouth. It tasted like saline, like what saline is, salty. It was gross.
Mhm.
And it would linger even after they did it.
Mhm.
Um, and my mom always used to bring like candy for me.
Mhm.
So like when they would get ready to flush, she would like give me a few Mike and Ikes, and that was always kind of like a comfort thing that my mom did that I look back on and
Mhm.
remember.
Yeah, and I think that we said it in the beginning, we said in our first episode, it's kind of like you can't control what happens to you, but you control how you react.
Sure.
Right. And if for you, it's finding joy in those Mike and Ikes and finding joy in that song that gets you through, I think that's something really special and
Yep.
to inspire people because sometimes life's tough, right? But if you can find little things that help you and turn something bad into something good, I think that's really inspiring. And it seems like you did that. It seems like your parents did that for you.
Definitely.
And talk to me more about your family. It seems like they were a big process in this. They inspired you. They helped you. What did they do
Yeah.
more than the support?
My parents were really inspiring to me to kind of like adopt this mentality of like, we're gonna figure this out, right? Like we'll get through it. Um, they never really like they always gave me what I needed,
Yeah.
especially like advocating for me in school and stuff like that, and like the school staff, which was awesome to begin with. But um, they never sugarcoated anything either. I was still a regular kid. My mom would still yell at me to clean my room, bring down the laundry, like all that kind of stuff that like I'm looking back now, like I'm super grateful that they gave me the most regular childhood that I could have had, considering. Um, my brother too. My brother never stopped busting my chops through the whole thing. I used to have this thing. Well, I mean, me and him really know about it, but he used to call it chemo arm. He used to call it chemo arm. I would have my IV in for 5 days because my parents didn't want me to have a port. When I wasn't on chemo, they wanted me to be as normal as I can. If I could go outside for 20
Mhm.
minutes, ride bikes with my friends, like they wanted me to be able to do that with a port, super limited. So I'd have my IV for the whole treatment week and it would get taken out on Friday. Um, and when you have an IV in your arm for 5 days, you tend to baby your arm a little bit. Um, and I used to like my arm used to like hang out to the side like a few inches. And even after I finished chemo, like if you look back in like pictures of me throughout high school, I got so comfortable with my arm kind of like being out. I look so weird in so many pictures. And my brother used to rib me for it. We'd look in pictures, he'd be like, "Oh, there's chemo arm." So that was kind of cool, just to still kind of have that relationship when everything else was, going horribly wrong.
Yeah, of course. And it sounds like as bad as it was, you don't look back and complain about it or pick out all the bad things that happened to you. You look back at it and laugh, right? Or turn it into a joke that you and your brother have something special.
Yeah,
And I think that's special too, because we could sit here and you could talk about all the bad things that happened, but it's inspiring to hear you say some of the positive stuff and that your family did for you and looking back and laughing at some of those moments.
yeah, it does no good for me
Mm,
to think that way now.
of course. Yeah. And same thing goes for me. For listeners that don't know, I was sick when I was younger too with NF. A lot of surgeries, a lot of doctor's appointments, and no one likes going to the doctor. And I would have to go countless times, countless MRIs, and MRIs are terrible. The noise, it's so loud. You have to stay still in that. I had a cage over me with a mirror.
The
Um,
infamous cage.
yes, and I just didn't like it at all. I didn't like
Yep.
looking at myself through it. Um, and it was scary
You would
for
look at
me.
yourself through the mirror.
They would put the mirror over my eyes so I could just see me.
They didn't angle the mirror so you could see the.
Mm-mm.
That's
No,
crazy.
it was
Like
towards me.
and that's just what they did. You wanted it that
No,
way.
that's just what they did. I didn't want that. So I closed my eyes.
Yeah, every time I've had a mirror, they aimed it up. So like if my mom was in the room,
Mhm.
like when I was younger, I could see her.
Mm-mm.
Or they would like have it up so I could see the window where the tech was, and he would like wave at me and
No, sometimes
talk to
towards the
me.
tech, but it was mainly towards me.
Really,
Mhm.
that's interesting.
Yeah, but I really just didn't like MRIs, and there was a point I was getting them once a month. I was a
Once a
baby.
month is great.
Yeah, baby when I first started, so I was 1 month old. So that time didn't really understand what was going on, but as I started to get older, especially elementary school was so hard for me to stay still, like not react to the
Yeah.
noises. So me and my mom would do a thing that every time the machine would change noises, I would say a different restaurant. And
Okay.
then when my MRI finished, whatever restaurant it landed on, she would take me there for
That's great.
dinner.
I like that.
So sometimes like it would distract me, but it also was like just something me and my mom shared and it was something special.
Yeah.
And it kind of turned something I didn't like into something not fun, but a little bit more positive. And then whenever I would go to my doctor's appointments, they were all in the city. And we would always do something fun after the appointment. So I remember there was one time I got not the best news at an appointment. And instead of looking back, remembering that, I remember the Rangers were in the playoffs at the time, not nearly as bad as they are now. They were pretty good at the
Horrible.
time. And they had a whole Rangers town set up for them
That's
with
cool.
like games and like stuff to get ready for the playoffs. And I wanted to go so badly. So we walked there 50 blocks from the hospital.
Gee.
Instead of just getting in a cab, but we had like the funnest time. We would stop at like all the food carts that were out there and like
Okay.
the
Yeah,
little
yeah,
like
yeah.
tables with like scarves and pocketbooks. And then we made it to Madison Square Garden and I won a shirt from like someone famous and like played all these games. And it was like, I was on cloud nine, right? And you would never know that just an hour before that, I
Yeah.
got bad news from one of my doctors. And I think it's no matter how bad it is, you can turn it into something good. Maybe not right away. Maybe you have to like take some time.
Yeah,
Um, but for me, like I was the happiest thing. And something else I take out of that is you never know what someone's going through,
sure.
right? I walked into Madison Square Garden with the biggest smile on my face that you would think I was the happiest kid in the world, not knowing just moments before that
Yeah,
I was sitting in a doctor's office. So I think that too is like something I learned that you have to treat people kind, right? And you never know what someone's going through, but then also you yourself, those bad moments, let's turn it into something good.
mm.
Yeah. Can you speak to me about that? Like what other moments for you was hard that you turned into a positive or you were able to turn into a positive?
I was able to turn into a positive. I remember one of this was a more recent appointment. It was my last treatment of the most recent kind of cycle that I went through that lasted, I think, like 8 months or so. It was at Sloan, and it was basically like an outpatient like procedure where they would give me like the chemo like localized through an artery. Um, and I remember going to like this wasn't a treatment, but it was like the checkup appointment, like after the treatment, like after my MRI. Um, and what me and my dad used to like to do in the waiting room is we look at cars on Marketplace because we're car guys. We found this blue '77 Nola. Um, And to this point, my tumors never shrank at all. It's a blue '77 Nova. I think it had 327 in it. The guy converted it to a stick. It's a 4-speed, and that thing was just nice. It's beautiful. The guy wanted like I think like 7-8 grand for it. Um, I was like, oh man, that's cool. So we're looking at it, and every time I look at cars, my mom's like, here we go again. The guys are gonna buy another car, and we're in there, and I'm like, Mom, if my tumors shrank, we're gonna go get this car. Just like
For the
whatever.
bit.
Yeah, yeah, for the bit. Exactly. She's like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Dad, you heard it. She said yes. Sure enough, we got in the room. Doc comes in. He's like, I got good news. I'm like, what? He's like, tumors shrunk. Me and my dad lost it. And the doc's sitting in there like, what did I miss? That was another fun time. I mean, granted, we got good news that time, but
Did you
that's
get
the
the
kind
car?
of stuff we did not know.
Oh,
It did not pan out. It was that hurt me for a few
man.
weeks, but we got one now, so
Mhm.
that's fun. But that was definitely another time. Um, Another time I was in treatment. Later down the line, so I want to say like my 7th or 8th treatment cycle. Um, and I think this was like a Thursday. My IV like blew out like 2 times that week. So I'd go in, they'd like do like the saline flush on my arm and just pull with the saline. So they used to have to pull it out, put a new IV in, make sure they get the vein, the whole nine. And it was just a bad treatment week. Like I was like nauseous, I was like throwing up. My IV was just getting blown every day. Um, and they used to have the child life people that come around, and I was a stubborn kid. I was like, "Get away from me! Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you." And then I met this child life worker, Sam. Um, and she was kind of like on like my wavelength of like, she understood, but
Mhm.
she would come over and like just bring me a snack, whatever, and then walk away, and like slowly got closer with her, and then she found out what I was into, what kind of games I like, that kind of thing, because I was never a board games
Yeah.
guy, like I don't want to come play an icebreaker while I'm
Mhm.
getting pumped with chemo. Um, but I remember one day she brought over, like when you get an IV taken out and they put that like elastic wrap that sticks
Yes.
to itself. You know how they come in like little rolls?
Mhm. I didn't like those, but yes.
I did like those actually. They were like, I don't know, I thought they were cool.
Mm.
How it sticks to itself.
I always got cool colors, but I
They
did
did
like
have
them.
cool colors, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So she bought out a bunch of them, and she was like I like simple stuff.
Mm.
She was like, I'm gonna put this bucket over here and throw them in the bucket. So I was like shooting them from my bed, getting pump of chemo and my gummy bears, my
Mhm.
pretzels, and just shooting these little wraps into this bucket. and I was aces, of course, couldn't miss. So then she was like, we got to make it harder. So she moved it farther away and still throwing them, having fun, whatever.
Still making them? Because when we played basketball,
Still,
I don't remember you making baskets.
this is very different than this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But my dad, he used to come home from work early. My dad works construction, so he always had his razor on him, like from his job. And he's like, let's make it even harder. So they double stacked the buckets, and he cut holes in the middle of these plastic buckets.
Fancy.
And we stuck them together. So you had to get it not only in the bucket, but then in the hole, and then through the second hole. So like we just kept escalating. He kept cutting like the holes like smaller and smaller on different buckets. And that passes time super quick. So I think my mom has a video of it. Maybe we'll try to insert it when, we go and edit. But yeah, that was a good time. You hear my mom laughing in the background. It was, the best of a bad day.
Yeah, of course. And it sounds like you had some special people that helped you through it, right? The child life specialist. And I remember too, I was at Sloan for a short time. Not that my tumor was
Well, this was
cancerous.
at Northwell.
Northwell, okay.
Yeah, by this time I was at Northwell.
By that time, when I was at Sloan, though, just because they wanted an extra set of hands, I always remember they had a special room that you would go in the waiting room for like the kids to go in. At my time, it was a while ago, and I would always go play bingo for some reason. And like, if you won, you got like such cool prizes.
Bingo,
bingo.
Alone?
No, you can't play bingo alone. It
I
would
know,
be
that's
with
kind of what I'm getting.
So whatever kids were in the waiting room at that time would be like playing bingo.
Okay.
And I loved it. They would do crafts, and like for some reason when I went there, that was like the highlight of my visit. But like really, I was a kid who was like,
yeah, they tried to do that for me. I was like,
and I embrace it and I loved it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I think it's a lot of times the people that are there for you, your amazing team of doctors, your family, that sometimes are the ones that make it better and easier for you. And I remember there was a time recently with you and you had to go for a test and drink that disgusting drink.
God, the colonoscopy.
And I remember just like singing to you to get you to finish it.
You're doing some crazy dances.
Yes. And I'm a terrible.
Should we drop that video?
I don't think so. I'm a terrible singer. So bad.
The worst.
Sing the wrong words, out of tune. And I think that you just wanted to finish the round of the drink to get me to stop singing. It helped. It helped, right? And not to hype myself up, but I think that it's the people in your life during the time that also
hype yourself up,
help get you out of it. You mentioned your family a lot, your mom, your dad, your brother.
My friends, yeah.
Your friends. So let me hear about your friends. What did they do for you?
So much. My buddy Andrew, specifically.
Great guy.
The best. I remember when I was diagnosed, and I didn't really wonder about what my friends said if they knew. Like as a kid, it never really like crossed my mind. But I was fragile during chemo, especially when I tried to go to school on treatment weeks. Like every treatment week, I would try to go to school. And I would like make it like 3 periods, and my mom would come pick me up. Thank God the school was only like 3 minutes from my house. But you know how like they give you like a helper in school, like when you like break a bone or something. I had a helper, so like I would move classes like after like passing time was over and that kind of thing. And Andrew was my helper along with my cousin Vin. My cousin Vin, did a great job.
Yeah.
But
you and Andrew together sounds a little dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Right. Even before I was diagnosed, we had a 3rd grade teacher. I used to say that. He used to never let us, like when you have like birthdays and you would bring snacks in.
Yeah.
And like you would like be able to like bring them around like to people. It's like, let's take Andrew. He was like, you kidding me, dude? It's like, I'm gonna let you 2 guys out of the classroom.
I am worried about some of these stories. But...
Yeah. But he was my helper in like 6th grade. And, Andrew's a funny guy. And I just remember like walking in the hallway and he would walk in front of me like he was security, pushing people out of the way. Everybody move! Everybody move! He would go nuts. I even think he got in trouble a few times for like laying a kid out into a locker. But that's just the kind of friend he was, and the friend he is. So, and then the rest of my buddies too would always check in on me. when I was like young, I didn't talk to that many people about it. So like
Yeah.
people weren't checking in like that except for like, kind of my close circle
Mhm.
at that time. Um, but as I got older, like I remember in like 10th grade, I think it was. What was it? Ninth grade? I don't know. So long ago now. When I started treatment again, like when I got picked up, that's how crazy I was. I was going into my first treatment after being out of treatment for 8 months. And I went to school that
Mhm.
day and
Yeah.
got picked up early.
Mhm.
Like,
I think that's what you said, though. Sometimes you just have to live your life like it's
yeah,
a normal day,
yeah,
even though you are, at the end of the day, going to get that treatment, right? You kinda just have to stick with your routine as
yeah.
much as you can.
And we were in gym when I got picked up. Actually, it was Steven was in there, Kyle was in there. I don't really remember who else was in there, but definitely Steven and Kyle. And we were in the weight room,
Mhm.
and
Also a dangerous combo together.
yeah, we're all dangerous.
Yes.
But we're in the weight room, and I'm like, I'm going out on a high. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to do anything for the next year. So I load this bench up with weights, load it like significantly more than I could even like do like 5 reps of. I'm like, I'm doing it. And Kyle was like, "You sure, dude?" Like, I'm like, Kyle was a big guy. He
Yeah.
he was playing football at the time. He could throw it up.
Mhm.
Um, and then he was like, "I'm just gonna like spot whatever." I laid down on the bench and like I think I got through like 3 reps and I was like, I want more, I want more. And this weight practically collapses on me. Kyle lifts it off me. And like that was kind of my laugh for the day. Looking back on that, literally it was like clockwork. Like he pulled that weight up off me. The phone rang. He was like, "Dom, you're going home," and I was like, "Oh, see you boys in a year," you know.
Yeah.
And it was cool because they all gave me a hug and
Yeah.
dapped me up on my way out and said good luck,
Mhm.
which was nice. But
Yeah. Of course, and it sounds like even though we have those supporters in our life, right, and they dabbed you up, right, and they made you feel like you were on top of the world, they're still inside of us that's like, "This is great, I have them, but how am I gonna get through this?"
yeah,
Right? There's always that little voice in our head that does say that, and I think we talked a lot a bit about turning the bad into the good, but at the end of the day, like, I think it's a reality that there is still some really hard parts
sure,
about what we went through, and looking back, like, we could say all the good we remembered and not mention the bad, but it
yeah,
still did happen, and it still
yeah.
is there, and I think that's important for people to know too, that it's not just some positive thing that we're pushing on people, but it is tough.
No, we are very realistic
Mhm.
about things that are awful, and
Mhm.
I never want someone to listen to these podcasts and be like, these people think they have it figured out.
Mm.
Like there could be no negativity. Like there's a ton of
Of
negativity. I deal with
course, yeah.
negativity every day. Just
Mhm.
get back on like,
Yeah.
what I went through. But I think it's important to try to make the best of,
Mhm.
what's going on and whatever that
Yeah.
may be for you, it is.
Mhm.
But, I think it's important also, like, even though we're like starting this like, resilient podcast,
Mhm.
like to be real that like, not there's a lot of stuff
Mhm.
that sucks.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
you know, that's unfortunately just the reality
Yeah.
of it.
Mhm.
But if we can encourage people to maybe, you know, acknowledge it and then shift their perspective a little bit,
Yeah,
I think we're doing the right thing.
of course, yeah, and you say if we can encourage some people, right, inspire some people. Is there anyone that encouraged you or inspired you through this time?
Through my time, like in treatment, you mean?
Mm, just in general, like even now, maybe starting this podcast or
Yeah.
help shift your mindset. Who are some of those people?
Oh, there's a lot.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously my family, which
Yeah,
we spoke
we've
a bunch
spoke.
about.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of teachers I had were,
Mhm.
really impactful in the way that I want to do well for them,
Yeah.
right? Like they believed in me when I was a kid, and um, they helped me through tough times. Mary Fowler,
Mhm.
Chrissy Teigen. Um, yeah, they're just super special to me, and you know they were just kind.
Mhm. Yeah.
They were kind people, and they made me want to do well. They made me think that I could do. whatever I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And at that time, that was like in a way surviving
Yeah,
because
of course.
I was in treatment. But I think those people are super responsible for the reason that I have the mentality I have. And, I still talk to them
Mhm.
almost,
Yeah.
every day. Um, and yeah, they're just, like my second moms.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really special to have that and that they had such an impact on your life, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not like it went away or that they treated you differently. It seems like they still treated you the same, but maybe with a little extra
Mm.
kindness sprinkled in.
Yep.
Anyone when starting this podcast that kind of gave you that push, or have you watched other podcasts that you were like, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. I've always seen podcasts and I've been like, that would be cool. Like,
Yeah.
have cool conversations with cool people. Um, but the person that really pushed me to take the step to kind of start this was Nick Page
Mhm.
of the Trainer Page. Um, I look up to him a lot, and he has his own story that he'll tell eventually. Um, but like just to see the way he's putting himself out there on social media was something I was always afraid to do.
Mhm.
And I remember texting him, talking to him about it, and basically like a mentor. He was like, "Dude, like you have a story to tell.
Mhm.
Like there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't,
Yeah.
you know, get after it." And I think he was like, I think people like it and gravitate to it. Um, and he's a little bit older than me, and just to see the success that he's, had, um, by just being dedicated and putting himself out there is super inspiring to me for sure.
That's really special. And I know you've told me, so I want our viewers to know too. Also, when you were younger, going through treatment, he had an impact on your life.
Yeah, Nick used to, when I came out of treatment the first time, my parents wanted to get me into something to just get me
Mhm.
stronger.
Yeah.
Um, so they put me in basically like athletic training pretty much.
Hmm.
Um, and Nick was my trainer. I think he was like, fresh, like out of college,
Hmm.
maybe. Maybe even still in high school. I don't know. Nah, he was right out of college, I think. Um, and yeah, he trained me, and that was some of the best times that I've kind of had
Hmm.
for sure. Getting back into athletics and working with him.
Was there something that he did or something that he said that helped you get through those physical hardships, like returning from chemo? Or was it just him being like, you're going to do it? And then you did it?
In terms of like you mean like now or back then?
Back then. So when you were
Yeah,
back getting into like the agility stuff, the training.
yeah. He treated me like a normal kid, man.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
he would coach me super
Mhm.
hard. He would just yell, "Let's go down, let's go down!" Like while I was like doing whatever he told me to do.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he was just super encouraging. He
Mhm.
was like, "Just rep it out," and that was cool
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And is that something you now want to do for others? I know you play roller hockey. Is coaching something that you want to do to also like maybe do that for others?
Yeah, I would love to coach,
Oh.
especially roller hockey
Hmm.
if I had the
Okay.
opportunity.
Yeah, awesome.
Um, yeah, I think naturally I'm a pretty decent motivator,
Yeah.
regardless of what I've been through.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that would be cool to to definitely get into one day.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a lot of you say it with passion, right? And belief in yourself, which I think is awesome to push you towards that next step.
Yeah,
And I heard you say in the beginning, we were talking about Nick Page motivating you, inspiring you to do this podcast. You said that you had this fear of putting yourself out there,
yeah.
right? What was so hard about putting yourself out there and sharing your story?
Just the unknown. When I was going through it,
Mm.
I didn't talk a
Mm.
lot,
Mm.
which led to some issues for sure.
Mm.
Looking back on it now, but I also think now there's an element of like I don't know, like telling my story now that like it's done. That feels kind of like look at me ish.
Mhm.
That I don't like, but I think it's important to have like honest conversations
Mhm.
and things like that. Um, but yeah, I think it's just how people will view it.
Mm.
you know, and what I'm saying. And, I know I'm not, I know, I like to think I've developed a lot of good like strategies and, tools and have a pretty good outlook on life. But also only 22. Like,
Yeah.
my dad could watch this podcast and be like, what does this kid know about life? You know? Um, so yeah, I think that's
Mhm.
all part of it.
Yeah, and I think with starting anything, right, we're always fear, like, what are people gonna say about it? Like that fear of judgment. Am I gonna say the right things? Am I gonna say something wrong?
Yeah.
And you even saying like your dad, like, what does this kid know about life? And we're still figuring it out as we go, right? But I think the biggest thing is like you do have a story, and if it just inspires one viewer, then you did the right thing.
Mhm.
Because I think a lot of times we're so focused as a society on numbers and how many views we get, how many likes we get, the feedback we got. But I think we should be more focused on, did this help one person?
Yeah.
Of course, we want to help more and we want this to become like a really big thing, right? But for me, it's, can I just help one person get through it? And when I was really sick at the time after my first back surgery, I had to learn how to basically do everything again. They basically built me a new spine. So I had to learn how to do basic movements again, because a lot of it was neurological, right? So I had to learn how to sit up again. I had to learn how to walk again. And that was the hardest thing for me, being told at 6 years old that, listen, you no longer know how to walk. We have to teach you. It was something I could not wrap my head around. I was terrified. And there was days that I didn't even want to sit up. One, because it was too painful, and two, I was scared I was gonna fail, right? But I got myself up and I started walking, and I eventually was able to walk to the end of my floor unit and back. And they told me that's what I had to do to get home. So
Yeah.
big motivator.
There you go.
But the point of the story is, after I finally got myself up, I found out that there was two girls much older than me. I think they were maybe 10, 12 years older than me. And they also were going through something similar and had to learn how to walk again, but they couldn't, they were too scared. So I, at 6 years old, walked myself down to their room. And I basically told them to get out of bed. And I was like, if I can do it, you can do it. And again, that was 6-year-old me, like talking to these
Yeah.
girls who so much older than me. And it worked. They got out of bed because they saw
There you go.
that I was able to. So that's kind of like my point of, we might not say the right things, right? We might not have it all figured out, but we do have something inspiring to share.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important part of, maybe don't hold yourself back and just share your story.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely, agree with that. And I think there's something to be said for not necessarily strength in numbers, but like someone to just be there to be
Mhm.
like, let's do it. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, and I think you said it earlier and just recently that you didn't talk about it when you're going through it, right? You kind of maybe bottled it up, maybe you weren't ready to accept it, and I think that's for a lot of people, right? So maybe if they're not ready to talk about it, they can be ready to listen. And they may not be ready for that
oh, I like
either,
that.
because I think it's also hard to hear about it. I was much younger at the time when I was sick, so I just would go to my doctor's office and be handed a toy while like the doctors talk to my parents.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older, I hear these big words, and it's like, at 6, I didn't know what a tumor was, but now I understand what those words mean and how scary it can be. So there's times I'm not ready to listen to what the doctors have to say or listen to like what the outcome could be. But I think over time you are, and I think for our viewers, the hope is if they see us talking about it, maybe their first step is just let me listen to what they have to say.
Yeah.
And if they can relate, I think it can be easier for them to talk about it.
Sure.
So maybe that could be our first goal.
Yeah.
Not that get them ready to talk, but get them ready to listen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer in like absorb everything,
Yeah.
right? Take and use what you want and what's valuable to you. But, I've been in a lot of rooms where I didn't want to hear what was
Mhm.
going
Of
on,
course,
but,
yeah.
you got it.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that sometimes we're so maybe worried about what's gonna be said or that we're gonna be told no, right? For me, that was the biggest thing returning to sports.
Yeah.
I was always told, like, "What if this doctor doesn't clear me?" Or, "What if they say I'm never gonna be able to play again?" And for a moment, that was, like, on the table. Luckily for me, things changed, and I proved some people wrong. Because I was like, "I'm not gonna take no for an answer," and really just pushed and pushed, and it took a lot of hardships and tough times to get me to where I am today. But I think that we need to be open to listening because we can't change what they tell us, right? But we can change what we do about it. And maybe it's we ask questions and we have those tough conversations, because I think insight and feedback can lead to future conversations and more possibilities.
Yeah.
But if we're so shut down into I'm not going to listen, I think then you're just kind of putting yourself at already not being able to reach that finish line.
Mm.
For you, what was the hardest part and thing that you shut down to not hearing? Was it doctors? Was it?
I don't know if it was necessarily hearing, as I was shut down to what my body was doing,
Yeah.
during that time. Um, it was the nausea, the
Mhm.
fatigue, and you know, um, like the corners of my nails started to like cave, and
Mm.
you know, my teeth
Mhm.
like broke down, and um, my head was soft. I couldn't lift the laundry
Mhm.
basket.
Mm.
Um, I had to shower 3 times a day just
Mm.
because the water felt good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I shut down to the reality of what was happening to my body, and then
Mhm.
my friends would come over, and I would go like play lacrosse with them,
Mhm.
and like you know I would be tired in 15
Yeah.
minutes, and then I'd be upset. And I remember there was a time when my mom was like, "Listen, like this is the reality of the situation. Like we want to let you do these things, but we're not gonna let you do them if you're gonna start to beat yourself up
Mhm.
about your ability to do them, because that's counterproductive,
Yeah.
right?" Um, so that was definitely something I didn't want to listen to.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's really hard, and I think sometimes the people that tell us that are usually our parents, right? Our doctors, and they want the best for us, and we know that. But for us, it's just we don't want to accept it
Nope.
because we want to just either one pretend we're okay, and we just don't want to admit, like, you know what, I need to rest today because it's kind of accepting our circumstance. But I
Yeah.
think sometimes we shouldn't look at it as, you know what, I have to accept this, but almost this is good for me and this is what I need. Um, for me, and I think I was the same way as you, I would always like push myself almost too hard because I didn't want to accept that maybe I need
Yeah.
baby steps. Like maybe it's not returning fully to sports, but like little by little, and I have to build myself up. Because I think sometimes not accepting it is what hurt me more and frustrated me, upset me, where sometimes we just need to be like, you know what, no, for you, no, I'm going through chemo. I need to rest, or I have all these things
Yeah, I
because of
don't think I
this.
ever said that,
No.
but
And I think if you did, maybe it would have just made things a little not easier, but
yeah, I think as I kind of grew up and
Mhm.
had to go through chemo, especially in college, I
Yeah.
adopted that mentality,
Mhm.
a little bit more.
Of course. Yeah, and for me, a lot of times there was people I wouldn't even tell. I got to a point where some of the symptoms, side effects weren't as noticeable when I got older. So people,
Yeah,
it was kind of like who I wanted to tell, but there was
sure.
people that should have known that I didn't tell because I didn't want special treatment, right? My college, I got fortunate enough to play college sports, but I didn't tell those coaches right away.
Yeah,
And there was times that I would get really hurt, and they didn't know it was because of some of my
yeah,
symptoms that I had
that's not
back
good.
surgery. And it would be scary. And I think like had they known, situation could have been handled better. But I was always a person that I didn't want to be treated differently. And I thought that even for myself, if people knew, I could use it as an excuse. Oh, we're running extra miles today. I could have been like, Coach, back
Help me
hurts,
out.
can't. So I think I kind of did it to myself to hold myself to a higher standard. But I think sometimes we just have to give ourselves more grace and credit, especially with the things we do go through.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was just thinking of a story now that you're talking about sports.
Yeah, tell me.
Um, I remember playing high school soccer, and like I wasn't where I thought I should have
Mhm.
been prior to chemo, in terms of
Yeah.
conditioning. Um, and I remember talking about that like that. Like I can't get it. Like Coach Assini's not giving me playing time. Blah blah blah. He was like, well, "Why don't you stay like after practice and like just run?" And I remember doing that for like one practice. Like I remember Coach came out like after everyone on the side. He's like, "Dude, what do you do? I gotta get the reps in, Coach." And like it was cool. Definitely made me feel good that I was doing it. Um, but yeah, I just remembered that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's awesome that you say, like, sometimes we push ourselves to a limit, but also sometimes we're like, I can do this. Even if you,
Sure.
right, you weren't getting the playing time you wanted, and you could have easily been like, you know what, this, whatever, and had that kind of mentality of, okay, who cares then? But instead you worked at it, right? And I think that's the same thing with resiliency, and we can't control what happens to us. We can't control maybe how people treat us, but we can control how we react, right?
Yeah.
So you turn that into a motivator for you, and I think that's something that is inspiring, and our listeners are going to be inspired by it too.
I hope so.
Yeah. Now I want to shift focus a little bit to your business. I see you're wearing your hat Better Days.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about it in our first episode, but I want to hear more about it because I think it's something really special. There's a special meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And maybe you can start with the hat because that's something that we did, right? The hat of the month,
Yeah.
and how there's a meaning behind each hat. So I'll let you do it since it's mainly you started it, and I want them to hear about it.
So originally, started Better Days. You guys know the mission statement. It's all about looking forward and, living your life with a positive mindset, right? Like better days are ahead. They're here, they're not gone by any means. And we put out some merch and it was cool, but I feel like the mission kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit. So really took a step back, refined the mission statement, and we pivoted to hat of the month where we came up with the hat design in a limited quantity um, that had some sort of, meaning. Like this past month, I'm not wearing it now, but our hat was blue for, that's the, the national color for LCH, the type of cancer that I have. It says better days, show up, make it happen on it. And there's a blue cancer ribbon on the side. It's a really nice golf hat. Go check it out. Maybe pick yourself up one. But I think, shifting to the hat of the month and making what we were putting out very intentional was, definitely a good move for us. And it made me feel better about the direction in which, my business was going and, tie it to really what it is at the heart of, better days and, that kind of mentality. And, I know we went to Blue Ribbon last week, so we could talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, and we will shift to Blue Ribbon because I think it is a really special thing. But
Best.
I do want to say one thing because I think it goes back to us starting that podcast, right? That fear of what are people going to say? And I think sometimes that comes up in the business world, right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of our stuff is online and we're trying to push for more in-person things, right? Showing up at events or going to golf tournaments, going to roller hockey tournaments, or even a simple, there's an event happening, let's have a table at it. And I know when I've had conversation with you, there's been that little fear, right? Of, well, what if we go and people don't buy our stuff? Or what if people don't like it? What if we go up to someone and they say no, that they don't want us?
Yeah.
So I want to hear about that and how you've dealt with that.
Honestly, you've dealt with it more than me. I kind of, at least from that kind of aspect of the business, separated myself a little bit and kind of let you take the lead on, putting feelers out there and seeing what opportunities could be out there for us. But, I definitely relate to the fear of like when I design like new merch and I wonder like, are people going to like the quality? Are people going to like the design? And then like, you don't see that much traction to the website. And, you obviously don't see the return and the sales right away, which would be great. Oh, audience, blow it up, please. I'm begging you.
We also do have some new podcast merch.
That will be coming out shortly.
Do you want you to tell
if
them?
you guys want to, see it when we get it, we'll definitely rep it on, the upcoming episodes. But the quality, I've done a lot of research into finding good quality merch, and I really enjoy the quality of like the comfort stuff that's out there. So, we've tried to replicate, just that the best that, we can, I guess, so that is definitely kind of what the type of stuff that will be, coming out. We got some nice, comfy sweatpants, good quality. And same thing with the hoodies, which, is going to be great too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's as far as like the fear goes. Yeah, it's definitely hard.
Yeah.
You try to do the best you can with it, and you hope people like it.
Yeah.
And buy into it, and especially, your brand is a reflection of you.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a way, if people don't like it and
Mhm.
like you're afraid and like, what is this? Like this kid's using his story to make money, like that often enters my head and
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm just I'm just trying to be a positive guy,
Yes, yeah. And I think the biggest thing, especially in the business world and the business that you have that I've started to get into, a lot of it is number driven, right? Like how many of my hats sold, how many people came to my website.
That's where the money, gets
It,
made. That allows us to keep doing these type of things
mhm,
and putting out, limited ahead of the months and, being able to give back to the blue ribbon dinner and,
mhm,
have a sponsor, the sales are what allow us to keep putting
mhm.
ourselves, out there to not only grow, but like do good stuff for the community,
Yeah.
right?
And I agree. And that's one of the unfortunate things that it is number driven and result driven. But
Yeah.
I also want you to get to the point and our viewers to get to the point with like, maybe let's change how we view success, right? Of course, there's that one part that
Ooh, I like that.
it is number driven and we do have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But also then let's have a separate thing of success that, I finished my design today and like I got it done because it's really hard to do that creative
Yeah.
stuff, right? And
Mhm.
you could look at it, I know for me in school I would change a project 10 times because I was so into the visuals.
Yeah, I was never like that in
You
school
never
at
were,
least.
but with your hats, a lot of it is like,
Oh yeah.
do I like the font? Do I like the color? Do I like the spacing, right? That takes up a lot of time, a lot of like self-critiquing.
Yeah.
So maybe for you, success can be, yes, numbers, yes, sales, but also I finished my design and got it on the website.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you said, how you define success. And I think success should be defined by whatever you want
Ex-
that to look like for yourself.
yeah.
And I think, this podcast also in a way has, you know, allowed me to step outside of the business while maintaining the message,
Hmm.
which, to me is helping me define my
Hmm.
success a
Yeah.
little bit for
And
sure.
I think that's awesome. And I think the more episodes we have, you're going to realize more and more
Yeah.
the success you've had over time because I think you've just been so blocked by that number on the sales, which is understandable because that is a big part of a
Yeah.
business, right? But I also want us to, like we said, let's change how we define success and maybe we can have two meanings of it. We have the sales part, but we also have the what good am I doing? Who am I inspiring? And you know
Absolutely.
what? I finished a design today and I think that is a good thing, right? And
Yeah.
you also have to let yourself, I don't want to say fail because I don't think if you put a hat out there and it doesn't do great, I don't think that's failing. But you almost have to let yourself, like, maybe you just designed something that people didn't like and now let's change it. Because changing it is you not giving up, right? It's not like you're like, people didn't like my hat. They're never going to like my hats. It's, you got to learn from it, do some research, find out what people like, and then make a new hat, right? And you have to be
Yeah.
willing to kind of have people maybe not buy into all of them.
For sure. I definitely struggle with, two kind of ideas. One is, are people not liking the hats?
Mhm,
And the other part is, are just not the right eyes
mhm.
getting put on the hat. So
Yeah.
that's definitely like a game of tug of war
Mhm,
I play with myself when I'm constantly evaluating my business
mhm,
and, trying to figure out what my next strategic move should be and,
mhm.
growing the mission because that's ultimately,
Of course.
what we're trying to accomplish here, right?
Mhm.
But that's definitely, a little game that I play often.
Yeah, and I think biggest thing, and I feel like a lot of people deal with it, is like we're our biggest enemy sometimes, right? We're most critical of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think of times when I'm looking online at stuff or shopping, I'll really like something and sometimes I don't buy it. Maybe because it was too expensive or maybe because I'm like, I already have 10 sweaters, I don't need this one.
Yeah.
But to you as the creator, you're like, they didn't like my hat.
Yep.
But surely we don't think maybe they liked it and they just didn't buy it. Right. And I think just where we just always go to the negative side of it. But when you yourself look at stuff, I'm sure you've seen stuff that you loved and you didn't purchase it yourself.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
very like hypocritical,
Yeah.
like thought process for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. And then since we mentioned it, the Blue Ribbon Dinner,
Mhm.
Taylor's Hope,
Yep.
such an incredible cause. And I know we're pretty connected with it. I want you to talk to the world about that.
Yeah. So, Taylor's Hope is a foundation that directly supports LCH, the type of cancer I have, and they support it basically anyone who
Yeah.
is having a tough time. But they are a local foundation here on Long Island, super small, super family oriented, and they do a lot of great things, a lot of different events around the holidays. They do a bowling fundraiser, and then like their biggest, fundraiser of the year is a blue ribbon dinner.
Mhm.
So it's basically a benefit dinner. Um, they get a lot of donations for different raffles,
Mhm.
which is
Which I
awesome.
don't have a good track record with, I
No,
have to say.
no, you don't, you don't.
No.
But
Past two I've attended have not won a raffle, but I do just like to be there, so that's a good part.
yeah, I'm grateful enough to have been a sponsor. The past 2 years, I was actually honored at the dinner last year. I was the guest of honor, which
Mhm.
was super, humbling, and
Mhm.
I'm grateful for that opportunity. Um, and yeah, the foundation was started by Taylor and her mom, who have dealt with LCH.
But I think overall, just the organization
Yeah,
is so special, right? And I think any organization out there that does something good is amazing, right? And this one particularly to you because I think it holds a special place in your heart.
for sure. Yeah,
Um,
we've definitely I'm super close with Taylor and her family.
mhm,
Um, And the dinner is definitely something I look forward to every
mhm,
year. We were able to have the podcast sponsor
yeah,
at the dinner this year, and that was
mhm.
cool to see. Your logo up there on the TV
Yeah, I
and
want to hear
on all
more,
the
and I want you to
signage.
talk more about that because I was there too with you, and I know we took like pictures by our
Yeah, yeah,
logo. The podcast is pretty recent, but that was our first time seeing it
yeah,
at an event and a pretty big event. And I know that it
yep,
was on the TV screen, and then it was also on a board
yeah.
by the buffet. So, what was that like to see it?
Um, it's always like cool. Like
Mhm.
you get that little tingly feeling when you see it up there, and you're like,
Mhm.
I'm like in a way you're like establishing
Yes,
yourself,
yeah.
right? Which is awesome. But I was there last year,
Mhm.
and where we had Better Days as a sponsor. Um, so it's cool. I've met a lot of cool people, not only through my time playing college roller,
Mhm.
but just in roller in general. And my buddy Chris is a CPA,
Mhm.
and he came with us the past 3 years. And after the first year, he was like, "I want to sponsor." So now he like does like a gold
Yeah.
sponsor every year. He gets a plaque, and
Mhm. And a raffle. He always wins a
he always
raffle.
does win a raffle. He won the 50-50, I think,
He did.
2 years
He
ago.
won the 50-50, not this year, but last year.
Yeah.
And I remember he did not want to take it. And
No.
he tried to give it back, and this organization does not do give backs.
Nope.
They will not accept the
Shout
money
out
back.
Teresa Ryan. No
Yes.
give back.
And their thing is now go do something good with it. And what
Yeah.
inspires me is Chris now, even though they don't do give backs, he gives it back in a unique way, right? By either
Sure.
making it part of his sponsor package or doing something. And I think that is so I think sometimes people are so they think it's hard to do something
Yeah.
good, but it is so simple. And I saw this recently with Taylor's Hope. The one of their guest of honors was very big into acts of kindness, right? And that's something that I am trying to do more. And I want to challenge our listeners, especially with February coming up. There's a lot of
Well, P.S. I
events.
love you day,
Yes,
right?
P.S. I Love You Days coming up. And I'm a social worker, so it's something I like take big part in and plan so many things. But just
Yeah, that's your
do
Super Bowl.
it is my Super Bowl. Um, just do little acts of kindness, and it could be a simple um, buying the person's coffee behind
Sure.
you, right? And I'm not saying you have to go spend money and start buying strangers
Give
everything.
somebody a compliment. Tell them you like their shoes.
Yes,
Yeah.
hold the door for someone, like, say thank you. I think sometimes as a society, we're so
Come on. That's
n
bare. That's bare
it's
minimum.
bare minimum, but I think sometimes people think that it has to be some big gesture or they're afraid to do the extra work, but really it costs nothing to be kind.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like that's also putting yourself out there,
Mhm.
right?
It is, yeah.
But I mean, I'm also a believer in like you attract what you
Mhm.
are,
Of course.
right? So if you're giving that kind of energy out into the world, it's going to come back
Mhm.
to you in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or
Mhm.
form.
And I think that it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of our episode today. You never know what someone's going through,
Yeah.
right? And your simple hello or even just smiling at someone can be what they needed to get through the day, right? You have no idea the hardships people are facing, the hard conversations they're having, what they go through on a daily basis. Even someone with the biggest smile can be struggling.
Hmm.
And I
Oh,
think
don't I
that's
know it?
why you really just have to treat people kind and how you would want to be treated, right?
Sure.
And I think that's super important, something that Taylor's Hope is big on, and
Yeah,
something that we'll talk about more throughout our episodes. But shout out to them because they really do such good work, and
the best work.
even giving toys to families that are in need, and really taking advantage of holidays that are
Yeah.
fun, like St. Patrick's Day. I know they do the
St. Patrick's Day is
parade,
the best.
and it was my first time doing it last year, and I know there was one we go down Main Street in East Islip, right, and I completely ran away from the parade to go hand out
The old age home
the
to the
nursing
people in
home
the wheelchairs.
their like the green necklaces, and like it brought so much joy to their life.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like also me, I was like the happiest person that I like made these
yeah.
people happy. And it's I think those little moments that bring light to people,
Yep,
and that's what we want to do.
yep. The St. Patrick's Day parade is a good time. That
Yes.
Shamrock Punch, the
Mm.
best.
Yeah. And hopefully we can talk about it more, and we will when it gets closer, kind of like a recap of it. But just keep on buying into good things. And I think Taylor's Hope is something that we buy into.
Oh,
Um,
all day.
yeah, and hopefully we can, as we have more guests on, like learn about their things and continue to buy in, because I think if you support other people and they support you, it's a team thing. And like, let's all help each other do good rather than competing
Yeah, I
with
think
everyone.
I think you make a really good point, and like it's really all culture, right?
Of
Like,
course.
what do you want the culture of your life to
Mhm.
be?
Yeah.
You know, and how do you create that culture? I think that starts with who you surround
Mhm.
yourself with, and the type of things, like you said, that you want to buy into. But
Mhm.
before we get off track,
Mhm.
if you haven't checked out Taylor's Hope, definitely go follow them on Instagram at Taylor's Hope Foundation. If you want to go to quite literally the best event of the year, Blue Ribbon, next January, just passed, so you're gonna have to wait a little bit. But it really is a great night of talking to people, a bunch of raffles,
Mhm.
open bar, good food, and a lot of like impactful speeches, hugs,
Mhm.
laughs, cries, and everything else in between. So
Yeah.
I would encourage you, if you have zero affiliation, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like, grab your wife, grab your kids, your family, and just go. I promise you will not regret it
Mhm.
at all.
Yeah, that's a good message, and like you said, good thing. Let's just keep helping people grow.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Yeah, and now I'm going to segue a little bit to a new topic, just because we're coming close to an end of this episode.
I
But
could talk all day.
you
We are
could,
getting up there, but I could talk all day.
yes, I do. Usually, I would talk about the Rangers because you know how much of a fan I am.
Mm,
But gonna skip them today. Maybe give them some time to win some games for us to talk.
big guy.
I will say they did come back a little bit today. We're down 5-1 to the Penguins. Final score was 6-5. They lost,
Way to
but
show some resilience, boys.
I want to give them some credit for
Brutal,
scoring some goals. I think right now is
brutal.
a really hard time for them with this whole retool that I don't agree
Yeah,
with.
retool. What?
Um,
What does that mean?
like Panarin, he's sat out the last two games because
He's gone. He's getting traded.
he's getting traded. But it's got to be hard for guys you played with for years, some of your best friends, to not play some of those last games with them.
Yeah,
So
I get it.
I do want to give them credit for what they're going through. I always have to talk about my team, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to shift to football. We have the Super Bowl coming up next week.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about it. Who do you got?
I do want to see Sam Darnold get his ring, even though I'm a Giants fan, and he should have been a Giant way back when.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he got a lot of hate in New York, and he's proven everybody wrong. So I'm gonna go Seahawks, definitely.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go Patriots,
Yeah.
and that's not just disagree with you, but I've always been a Patriots fan.
I saw a meme the other day. It was of Jackson Dart, and it said, "Oh my God, the Patriots are going into a dynasty just in time for the Giants to destroy it again." And
Mhm.
I would love nothing more than for the Patriots to have a little dynasty, and then in 3 years, Jackson Dart come in and just shatter hopes and dreams like Eli did
Mm.
in 2007 and 11.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We're talking about the now, but thank you. I do like Dart, but Patriots always have loved them. A little upset that Belichick was not first rounder for the Hall of Fame,
Oh, ballot. Yeah,
first round ballot.
that was for all his What did they
Mhm.
what did they say was the reason that he didn't get put on?
I think just some controversial things.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember what it was though. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a little upset for him. And I like the new team. I like the quarterback
Drake May?
of the Pats. I do. I think he's got a good story, so I would like to see them win.
Okay.
So we'll have to say, I guess we'll report back next of who's the happy one after that Super Bowl.
Yeah. I think it's time for
What?
quote of the week.
Quote of the week. Okay, so if you missed it in our first episode, we will end every episode with a quote of the week. Either our favorite quote, one that stuck out to us. So you're up first.
I'm up first. Oh my God. Um, I'm torn between two. I'll save one.
All right.
All right.
Can't wait to hear.
So this is the quote from one of my favorite movies of all time, Joe Dirt with David Spade.
Mhm.
If you've seen the movie, it's pronounced Dierte. It's Joe Dierte,
I
as
don't think
as he
I've seen
says
the
in the
movie,
movie. Yeah,
but I forget movie names.
you do. Um, but in the movie, he says two things actually. The first one is "keep on keeping on," which
Keep on keeping on.
is self-explanatory. I think a little bit. But the second one is "life's a garden, dig it, make it work for you."
Okay.
And I know it sounds kind of like hippie-esque, I
Mhm.
feel like, but like it's true, right? Like life's a garden,
Mhm.
dig it.
Yeah.
Like get invested into your life, your goals, your aspirations, and you know what you want your life to look like. I think people are naturally like creative in some way, and I think it's important to you know dig into that a
Mhm.
little bit, and invest in yourself in a
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
So that's my quote. Life's a garden, dig it,
Yeah.
make it work for you.
Mhm. It almost wants me to say, life's a garden, grow it. Because
I don't like it as
you
much.
don't like it as much, but you get the concept. I'm saying you're making your garden, right? You're growing your garden.
Yeah. Nah, I like digging it better.
Okay. I just wanted to put a spin on
Great spin. Huh?
it. Okay, but anyway, my quote of the week is, um, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain.
Okay.
So for that, a lot of I think we talked about it a lot this episode. But it's always stuck with me because sometimes life can be hard and it goes back to that. It's
It's like
how you respond
embrace
to
the
things.
suck a little
Yeah.
bit.
And I think after it's going to sound cheesy, but after a storm, there's always a sunny day, right? There's brighter days ahead. There's better days ahead. But you got to push through that storm. And sometimes it's just, if all you could do is dance in the rain to get through it, then that's all you can do. And that's okay.
I don't really like the rain.
Hmm. Thank you.
But I get it. I get it. It's
Yeah.
very inspirational.
You see, when you said your quote about the garden, I wasn't like, I don't like to garden. Or I didn't say dumb, you would never garden.
I would never garden,
Didn't
but
say that. I didn't point that out. I just listened to your quote and really was insightful
I mean, if
about
you
it.
like the rain, by all means.
But that's the thing. Maybe you don't like the rain and you got to learn to dance in the rain. It's about learning to get through
do the hard things.
what you got through. Do the hard things.
Okay. No, I get it. I'm just messing with you.
Okay. Thank you.
It was a good quote.
Thank you. I guess I have to come up with better quotes.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're going to end on that note. Anything else you want to tell our listeners? Maybe encourage them to give us a follow.
Yes, absolutely. If you are here from YouTube or Spotify, if you could give us a follow on Instagram at Resilient Shift Pod, and Better Days Long Island as well. Head over to the website, maybe check out some merch, maybe pick something out for your significant other, a gift.
Valentine's Day is coming up.
Valentine's Day is coming up. That's a great
What better
point.
than Better Days and one, you make your girl happy, and you also buy into something good.
That's it, and it's good stuff. I promise.
It is.
I promise, right here. But yeah, if you could, if you're watching this or you see this in any way, help us grow. Right, we're trying to reach as many people as possible, and bring a little bit of realistic positivity into the world, which I think is really kind of like a pillar of our podcast.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it, like, you know, things suck. Like,
Mhm. But they're
but
also really great.
they are, yeah,
They
no,
are. But
no,
I do
but
agree. Things are hard.
I think there's something to be said for realistic positivity and
Mhm.
acknowledging what's horrible and what's awful and getting through it, and finding ways to just lighten the load a little
Mhm.
bit.
Yeah.
I think realistic
Mhm.
positivity
Yeah.
is important.
And also being there for people who are going through a hard time,
Yeah,
right? I think, and I'll end on this. Sometimes I think we have to know like how to help someone. What's the perfect thing to say to someone? But there is no perfect script or perfect way to be there for someone, right? Sometimes it's just showing up, being kind, and it could be as simple as just sitting with someone going through a hard time.
yep,
I think people who are in it, they don't expect people to have the right things to say. Sometimes we want them to, we want someone to give us all the answers,
yeah,
but sometimes we just need someone to care.
yep.
And I think that's the biggest thing. So if anyone's even maybe you're not dealing with something yourself, but a loved one is, a friend is, try to take some of that pressure off yourself and just be there. Just be a kind human and show up in their life any way you can.
Reach out, go get lunch, get them a Better Days hat. You know,
That's right.
anything to like I said, lighten the
Mm,
load a little bit.
of course. Yeah. But until next time, and hopefully we will see you guys soon. We can't wait for you to listen and just have a good weekend. We'll be back with some guests soon.
This podcast will be available on YouTube and Spotify. Make every day better. Do what you can. Um, realistic positivity, lighten the load, and thank you for watching the Resilient Shift podcast.
And learn how to dance in the rain.